It is only on very rare occasions that anyone loses teeth.
I know. I want to first thank you very much for your work, Jerry, Esther, everybody.
We're all in this together.
Yeah, but the problem is, the question I have is, why didn't happen the situation we have right now? Like Esther can bring Ibrahim out and can help people. Didn't happen before, long time ago. That, I mean, every teacher came, they didn't say the stuff you are saying. I mean, that's the first time in my life I heard those words. I never heard it in any religion, because I tried all of them. Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, everything.
Well, there is a remnant of this in all of those. And if you were, and in fact you were, there at the time that much of that was being offered, you would have felt more resonance with it. Over time, people modify to serve their own purposes. So the power or the integral basis sometimes, even though it is still there, is subverted, glossed over, forgotten, edited out in the 100th or 200th or 1000th or 2000th retranslation. But you know, it's an interesting thing. So here we are, and you are feeling the resonance of this. And the reason that you are is because of numbers here in relationship to a world. In other words, Oprah is aware of this, and yet not really wanting to have an open chat with Abraham about it, because there is resistance in the part of the masses to accept the fullness of who they are. In other words, it's not that it's being held apart from you. It's not that anyone is deliberately trying to keep you from knowledge that would benefit you. It's that there are people who are already decided on the way they think things are. Jerry had an interesting experience. They went to Australia. We all went. It was a wonderful time. And Jerry did something that Esther said she is never going to allow again, since she is the keeper of his being. He didn't take any work with him. But he can't stop his mind, so he is reading everything. So he found the teachings of Buddha in a drawer and read them 40 or 50 times and was horrified with what he read in some ways, because it is, as you say, quite a departure from this allowing that Abraham is talking about, and this, the parts of it match up, but much of it is about struggle and deprivation. It's about stopping belief as if you could. And then they went to Hawaii for a few days, and he found a Bible, and that was far worse. And as he began reading it, he decided he was going to make a 12-point synopsis from every religion that he could find. And so he would work on it and work on it and work on it, and then he would read it to Esther, and then he would work on it and work on it and work on it, and then he would read it to Esther. And Esther said, how does anyone believe that stuff? How does anyone not hear the contradictions from one page to the next? There is no basis of understanding. And the reason for that, this is sort of what we are getting at here. And we are not wanting to offer blasphemy, although we are. We want to say, and it's sort of where we started here today, when you decide that you're going to find historical details of something that someone lived in another time, a time that you didn't understand, that you didn't have vibrational access to, and you decide that you're going to use that was written about that time as the pattern about how you will live your life experience. What you literally do is you say, I'm going to set aside the guidance that I was born with, the vibrational relativity between me, and I'm going to use some other set of something in order to make my decisions. And we just said to you on a far less big topic that we don't encourage you even on a day-to-day basis to make your decisions about what you will do based upon the big long list of things that you have to do. You can't even sort out your own personal experience. You cannot sort out your own personal experience, let alone the experience of your culture or of a nation or of a world last year and the year before and the year before and 2,000 years before and 3,000 years before. It is just not a possible thing. You cannot even begin to understand and make any sense of that. And yet people try to guide their lives by scattered bits of text that has been rewritten and rewritten and rewritten when every one of you is born right here and now as an extension of source energy, and the vibrational relativity is within you. And so we are in absolute agreement with you. We think that until an individual accepts that the understanding is within him, and we want to say to you, we think you would have a hard time finding any of these basic religions that you said you've tried them all, that somewhere in them there is not something about that. In other words, in every one of them there is something that is explaining that there was this and that there is this and that there is a relationship between. In other words, every single one of them. It's not the part that people want to talk about. This is a gathering of empowering you. We have no desire to bring you to our feet, although reacquaint you, to remind you, to reawaken within you your awareness of the power of your being so that you can get off and do the things that you have come to do. And most religions are seeking control. But that doesn't mean they started out that way. It means they've evolved to that.
Yeah, but let me... No, what I am saying doesn't mean that it's something wrong about that. But what's happened?
But you see, here's something really important. We're going to get right now to the heart of what you're offering verbally and vibrationally here. The first thing you say to us is, the problem is, why didn't we hear about this before? And we want to say to you, in that current attitude, you can't hear it now either. And that's the problem. You see, in other words, you can't say, why didn't it happen, or why isn't it happening? You have to say, won't it be nice when, and isn't it nice that? You can't focus upon the opposite of what you want and be a vibrational match to what you want. So you have to open yourself to the vibration that allows it. And when you do, it's an interesting thing. When Jerry and Esther first began receiving us in this way, Esther's first words to Jerry were, promise me that you will never tell anyone. You see how well that went? Because, well, she didn't want to upset anybody, and she didn't want people to think badly of her, and she was pretty sure that most people wouldn't understand or wouldn't accept, and so she just thought it would be a lot of trouble, and she thought that he shouldn't talk about it to anyone. But then a more important thing began to happen with them. In the beginning, Esther worried about causing confusion with others, or about there being contradictory thoughts that were offered. And in the beginning, before she followed some processes and brought herself more and more on a day-to-day basis in alignment with that which we are, Esther sort of suffered over that feeling that the world isn't getting it, and or the world isn't ready for it, or what they are believing is not good for them. But over time, Esther has come, as she comes into alignment with who we are and what we know, Esther has come to the place of understanding that all of that diversity is of value. And there isn't anyone that is doing anything that Esther wishes that they would do something different. In other words, Esther realizes that the world is big enough and everyone is the creator of their own world. And Esther has now come to the realization that her work is to get in the vortex. Her work is to be a vibrational match to who she is. And as you you listen back to some of those earlier religions, you will discover that that's what they were all wanting. When they were the ones receiving, and when they were in that mode of receiving, that was what they understood. So here we're going to put it in a very clear context for you in light of what we've been talking about already here today. So you get this idea of this vibrational reality. And we think we have done a good job of explaining whether you have accepted it or not, but it's the best story that we can depict this understanding of vibrational universal basis of. So here is this vortex, and the source that is within you is there, as are all of the vibrational components of all of the things that you've been asking for. And the expanding universe is about this goodness that's been extracted, that's been mined from life and held here. In other words, the best of all wanting is there, you see. So when you're standing over here outside of this vortex, your description of it is very different than when you're inside the vortex, you see. So it isn't that this is the only place where value and truth and law-based understanding emanates from, not even close. But for some reason, you got close enough to be in the vortex that you began hearing, you see. When you're in the vortex, you can find value in everything you focus on. And so that's why so many religions are really outside the vortex. They're outside the vortex in their fear, in their defense, and in their condemnation of everything except their little cluster. You're a lover. When you're in there, you are understanding. When you're in there, you're finding value in others. When you're not in there, you're defensive. When you're not in there, you're competitive. When you're not in there, you're afraid.
Yeah, in the last couple of months, I heard about you. I started meditating for a long time, 8 hours, 9 hours a day, because I'm disabled and I'm most of the time in the bedroom. I have a family, 3 kids, and my financial situation was really bad. I was going to actually try to re-emerge myself before I heard you, because I tried everything and I figured out religion doesn't exist, God doesn't exist, because if it does, at least it's going to help my family, not me. If I did anything wrong in my life, they are not responsible for that.
And now are you more prepared to say?
Now I am, no, everything is a lot different. I mean, I see the life different way. I can feel the source meet me. Before I didn't have any idea.
So really what you're wanting to say as you first sit down here is, I'm not sure how, and I'm a little wondering why it took so long, but somehow I was open enough that I heard enough, and then I listened more, and I came into alignment with who I am, and now everything looks different in my alignment. And then the next thing we hear from you, and how do I maintain that? And we say, stop talking about the stuff that bothered you. Stop talking about the problems, and speak from now on about how good it feels to have found this piece of alignment, and it will just get more for you. We'd never encourage that you spend 9 hours meditating, because you've trained your mind to be very...
No, I like it. It's fun.
Well, we'd rather you spend 9 hours appreciating than 15 minutes in meditation.